Welcome, friends, into my home and into my kitchen here at All Things Kitchen. My name is Jennifer, and thank you for joining me today. I actually tried to do this video yesterday, but I was missing one of the ingredients for it, and so I had to wait for it to come in my grocery order yesterday. So today, I'm going to be making a crumb coffee cake. And it's something that I've been wanting to make for a little while. And so I'm finally going to do it today. Generally, when I've made this in the past, I've made it like in a bundt cake or, just a pie plate kind of thing. But today I'm going to be using my little mini loaf pan and to make little mini coffee cakes. So we're going to give that a try and see how it comes out. I'm excited. Want some coffee cake. So I've got most of my ingredients together right here. I'm just going to finish gathering all those ingredients and then we'll come down and we'll get started. Thanks for joining me today. Okay, so we're going to start off with 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of sugar plus 2 tablespoons. Let me separate my measuring cups here. That measuring cup I used before was a 2-cup measuring cup, which is wonderful. I love it. Just get some of this stuff out of the way. It's not a hard recipe but there are quite a few ingredients to this. So there's 1 cup, and I need 2 tablespoons. Just kind of hands are a little shaky this morning, so I didn't want to spill sugar all over the place. So after that, we've got salt, and that is 1 teaspoon of salt. It's not necessarily necessary to sift these ingredients, but sometimes I have problems with my flour, so I want to make sure that this is a nice and fluffy coffee cake. So we're going to sift it so I don't have any lumps in my flour. There we go. And the rest is out of sugar, so we're good there. So now I need to cut in some butter. So the recipe calls for 10 tablespoons of cold butter. So I am going to cut in. I'm going to cut these up into a little bit smaller pieces, and then I've got my pastry cutter that I'll just work that in. So that's a whole stick plus 2 tablespoons of butter. I probably should have cubed up that butter, but it is what it is. It's Sunday morning here after Thanksgiving, and I hope you all had a very wonderful and safe Thanksgiving. There we go. Ours was just nice and peaceful and quiet, and we had a wonderful dinner with some very tasty dishes that we've been eating for the past several days. I'm just going to cut this in now with this pastry cutter. You could use a food processor if you wanted to. You could use a couple of forks, a couple of knives, or you could even get in there with your hands. But we do want this butter to kind of stay cold at this point. And so if I use my hands, that does kind of not keep it as cold. So I'm just going to work this in real quick. Okay, so I have just going to get what's stuck out of here. I'm not trying to get this, you know, worked in to where it's too small, because this is a crumb coffee cake, so I'm going to be taking out some of this mixture right now and setting it aside for the crumb topping. And I'm actually going to put that back in the refrigerator so it stays nice and cold until we need it. So just kind of getting that out, and I'm going to set aside 1 cup. Let me make sure this is incorporated well. Got my spatula here so that I'm not just getting most of the butter, because we do want that in the coffee cake as well. So I'm just going to set aside 1 cup here, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. So now in here I need to put my baking powder and baking soda. And I'm going to put my sieve back there. So I need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. That's baking powder. And then 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. My baking soda, I think, is probably going to be maybe a little lumpy. I'm going to work those lumps out there. There we go. So I'm just going to blend that in with this mixture here. And then I have 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk and 1 egg and some vanilla extract that I'm going to add in here. I have my egg coming up to room temperature. And basically what I did for that was I took it out of the refrigerator and I put it in a cup of warm water. So I'm going to break that in here so I can see, make sure it's a good egg, make sure that I don't get any shell in there. I have been known to do that a time or two. And got my buttermilk right here. So this is 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. And generally I make buttermilk by just putting some lemon juice and some milk and letting that sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. And that was the ingredient I was out of yesterday. And so I went ahead when I bought milk, because we drink a lot of milk around here. I went ahead and bought some buttermilk because it is the season for baking, and I could definitely use that. So I'm just breaking up that egg a little bit just to make it a little bit easier to incorporate well. And that was just using one of my already dirty measuring cups. And then adding 2 teaspoons, excuse me, of vanilla extract. Now, if you were with me when I made the chocolate milk, the chocolate syrup, I had talked about my dark rum vanilla extract that I made. Where's my date here? There it is. December 10th of 2023. So it's been almost a year. And I am, well, that was a tablespoon I just put in there, but that's okay. It was a little bit more than what was called for. So I have my mixer out, but let me just blend this a little bit and see. Oh goodness, that dark rum smell. That's definitely going to add to this coffee cake. I didn't want to use it in the chocolate syrup because it's definitely strong. But coffee cake would be okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't necessarily need to get my mixer out. Now I'm going to let this sit while I doctor up the crumb topping here. So to this 1 cup of reserved flour and sugar and whatnot, I'm going to add some brown sugar to that. And I need 2/3 of a cup of packed brown sugar. Let's see. I may need to get my big container out. I think so. I know it may seem redundant. I have larger containers and smaller containers of everything. I have containers like this with sugar and flour in it, but sometimes I just need a teaspoon of sugar and I don't need to pull out my big old jar just for a teaspoon of sugar. Likewise with flour, if I'm making roux, then I need just a small amount. Okay, so here's 1/3 cup of packed brown sugar. And here's another one. So that's 2/3 cup. And now I have brown sugar all over my fingers. So let me go wash my hands. And then to this, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And if you've not tried Ceylon cinnamon, I highly recommend. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but I highly recommend it. I'm just going to take a fork and kind of work all this in. And this will be our crumble topping for our coffee cake. You know, yesterday I bought I've already gone through 1 carton of eggnog this season so far. Got some more eggnog yesterday, and I'm sitting here thinking, I wonder what eggnog would be like in this coffee cake. I wonder if you could substitute maybe some of the buttermilk for eggnog, and then maybe just add some more baking powder or baking soda, because buttermilk does give lift to baking projects. So you would miss out on some of that if you switch that out, but I wonder if you could put some of that in there. Okay, so I'm going to clean up my area here a little bit and then bring the pan over and we will fill our pan. Okay, so I have my pan here. I have sprayed it with oil and took a little pastry brush and made sure that I moved the oil all around to cover everything. The recipe does say to grease and flour, but this is a really good pan. I haven't had a problem with anything sticking, so I'm just going to use oil. Got a little measuring scoop here that I'm going to use to get this in here, just to try to make them even a little bit. And I'm trying to decide if I want the crumb topping in the middle and the top, or maybe I'll do both. So I'll make a couple of these a little bit more shallow. Let me do that. So I'll put a little bit more in a couple of these, and we'll just put the crumb topping just on top, like it's called. So I've got this all mixed up. Let me get a spoon. That'll make it easier rather than a fork. I can always use the fork to kind of move stuff around. Definitely want some butter on there. All right, and then these smaller ones, I'm just going to put a little bit. Let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to kind of zhuzh that around a little bit on these. These ones here, I might put a little bit more topping on. And let's go ahead. Looks like I'm going to have a lot of topping left over. So I'm going to put, I don't have that much batter left, so I've got a couple that it will be on top and in the middle, and then let's see here. So it looks like we're going to do 3 and 3. I will put this recipe down in the description below, but I've had this recipe for so long that unfortunately I will not be able to give credit to the person that I got the recipe from. I tried finding it online. There are a whole bunch of different recipes online, so I'm just going to add a little bit more here. And I'm at the point now, I don't know how much these are going to rise. I didn't think about that. These may be very tall. I probably should have done a little bit less. There we go. All right. So I have my oven preheating 350 degrees. This is generally baked in a springform pan or a bundt pan, something like that. And I'm doing it in these little loaf pans. So I'm going to have to adjust the temperature some. It would generally bake for 50 to 60 minutes. So I'm going to test these at about 25, 30 minutes and see how they're doing. Okay, so I'm going to get these in the oven. So the coffee cakes are out. They're still a little warm. I just gave them about 5-7 minutes before I took them out of the pan. I did have some of them were overfilled, let's just say. So I have a learning curve with this loaf pan because some of the things I cooked in it rise a lot and some things don't. And I need to make sure that I'm keeping that in mind uh, when cooking in there. But it came out nice and clean. With that pan, that is a Wilton pan, and things come out just beautifully with it. But now let's give it a taste. It's been a while since I've had this coffee cake. So let me show you inside. So I chose one of the ones that just had the topping just on the top, and I can see where the butter's melted in it, and it just looks delicious. Wish you were here. You could have a bite too. But I will definitely put this recipe down below so you can make it yourself. In the loaf pan, I cooked this for about 35 minutes. Let's give it a taste. Mm-hmm. That's so good. Glass of milk. Friends, I highly recommend you try that if you like coffee cake at all. Do your own experiments. Do you want the topping just on the topping? Do you want some in the middle? But just keep in mind, whatever you do, it is going to rise, but it doesn't rise quite like a muffin. So you're not going to get like that muffin top where it can rise over the pan. So keep that in mind. It's not meant to do that. And I did overfill my pan a bit much when I put those in there. But this is so delicious, and I'm so glad that I took the time this morning to make this, and we will be enjoying this for the next couple of days as dessert, as breakfast, whatever we want it to be. So again, thank you for coming along with me. I will put the recipe down below for you, and I hope you enjoy. If you have a coffee cake recipe that you really enjoy, please feel free to share it with me. I love experimenting with new recipes. Friends, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Take care.